Hi, folks, and welcome to the 27th episode of the Vitor Vicente podcast. It's my absolute honor today to chat to Maurice Boland, an Irish entrepreneur based in Marbella. Maurice has developed ventures in the nightlife industry, in the media, having his own radio show, and he is currently exploring the real estate market. A man of his word, and the previous vice president of the Jewish community in Marbella, Maurice has bumped into a couple of troubles. We'll talk about all that, and if you want to know his trajectory from the man himself, stay around. And if you enjoy the episode, please give us a thumbs up. And I also encourage you, if you haven't, to subscribe to my channel. I will see you in a sec. Hi, Maurice, and welcome to my podcast.
Thank you so much. It is great to join you in Éire. What part of Ireland are you in?
I'm in Bray. I'm also by the sea, just I don't have the same exposure to sunshine as you.
Well, sometimes it's nice to get back to the Emerald Isle and enjoy. I always say, when it rains there, it's soft rain. It doesn't really wet you.
Yeah. I can relate to that. So there's a lot to talk about it here because you have such an eventful life that I'm fascinated to touch in at least some of the chapters, if you have time to touch in the majority of them. So, and I also I'm keen to have you here because you are a man of your word, and there are not that many these days, and that's the kind of people that I want to have next to me. So let's start with this venture, if you don't mind, which was the nightlife. At some point, I think sometime in the 70s, you started a nightclub in Leeson Street, and for those who don't know, those who are not that familiar with Dublin, Leeson Street is on the southern side of the city. It's, at least since I live here, which is since 2010, is the posh part of Dublin. So how was it to initiate a nightclub in that context?
Well, if you go back to the time, and the time was 1969, discotheque was never heard of. And my father was a well-known doctor from Dundee, and I went to him and I said to him, it was nice. See, I was 18, I think, at the time. I said, Dad, I want to start a discotheque. He said, a what? A discotheque. He said, what's a discotheque? And I explained it. He said, you want to open a room with a record player? People have record players at home, Maurice. I'm not giving you money to do that. And by the way, what would they drink? Because you couldn't get a drink license then. You'd have to buy a pub for $1 million or a hotel for 10 million. So, I'm going to sell wine. What? The only wine Irish people drank in the 69, 70 was Matthew's Rosé on a Saturday night. And he said, are you telling me someone's going to go into your club on a Monday night, an Irish fellow says, give us a glass of wine? You're crazy. This will never work. So eventually, I'm not giving you any money, he said. Eventually, a good friend of his, who was a builder, his son has just started off being a builder. I said, you build me my club, and I will give you the yearly membership, which was 10 shillings, to pay you the back. I think the cost was about $2,500, which is a lot of money then. You could buy an apartment for that. And he built Elizabeth's in a basement in a Leeson Street house. And when I built it, it was all built in caves, and I put a dining room in there and a restaurant. I had no idea what I was doing. I refused to put a sign up because I always reckon, well, if you don't know where it is, you shouldn't be there. So I wouldn't put a sign up. And it was an overnight success. And my father sort of came down the stairs of it, and he liked it. And there's very groovy people were going there. And you must remember, my father's probably about 40 then. So he has a very wealthy crowd of friends, like the Smurfits, and the millionaires were coming. It was the only club in Dublin, and I love Studio 54 in New York. I love the guy, so I started stopping people with beards at a time. I just at the door I had my doorman. But the thing which is important, and we can sort of move on from that, all the stars that were in Dublin, like Mick Jagger, the Rolling Stones, when they were in town, they would come to the club. And the rugby, which I was delighted, the rugby fans. And I will share with you something. Well, you probably wouldn't know this, so I wouldn't know This Is Your Life, which my father was a bit of he loved practically jokes. And there was a very famous Irishman called Eamon Andrews, had this huge show on BBC called This Is Your Life. And my father was eating at a restaurant in the Russell Hotel in just in Stephen's Green, that it was the place. And I was on my way to the club, and he phoned me, and he said to me, you better come here for dinner. And I said, for what? He said, no, you better come here for dinner. And I said, why? And I came anyway, and I sat down. He said, now, what night is it? I said, it's Wednesday. Yes. And what happens on Wednesday? I said, I go to my club. And he said, no, but on television. He said, I shouldn't be telling you this, but Eamon Andrews is doing This Is Your Life on You Tonight. And normally Eamon Andrews does like world famous people. So I said, where's Eamon Andrews? He said, look around. And there he was sitting behind me. And I actually believed my father that he was going to do me on This Is Your Life. I was waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. And eventually I said, come on, it's 7:30. The show's meant to start. And I looked around and he'd gone. So that sort of sums up the doctor, my father. But he made my club. He made Elizabeth's by getting all the right people to go there. And it was a great success, and all the beautiful people of Dublin went there. And it was bloody expensive. There's a book written called On Our Knees by Rosita Sweetman, and each chapter is about a famous person like Desmond Guinness, Charlie Haughey, the ex-Prime Minister, the Taoiseach of Ireland, Sean McStiffon, the head of the IRA. And the first chapter was me. I don't know why me. But in that it said it was so expensive, the club, that it was £4 for dinner. So that just shows you how long ago it was. And I invited her to my club, but I got the doorman to stop her because it was very snobby. And I knew by stopping her, she'd write more, which she did. So that sort of sums up Elizabeth's anyway. And oh, yes, of course, I got to tell you, the police, it was illegal. It was a speakeasy. It means you could have a wine it means you could have a wine license till 11 in the evening with dinner. But it's 3 a.m. All these people are sitting there drinking their wine, and the next minute through the peephole, you could see the Garda Síochána, the silver bottles, and the lights would flash, and the tables would be cleared. So these police would walk in at 3 a.m, and all these people are sitting there, dining tables with nothing on them. And that was okay until, am I talking too much?
No, it's okay. I just want to ask you one thing. So you said that people didn't know what was a discotheque. Was that the reason for you to launch one, or was there any other?
Yes, no, it was the reason. I was in London and I saw one and said, boy, I want this. Because before that, I was a drummer. I thought I was going to be the next Beatle, the next Ringo Starr. And I actually went and played in Germany with my band, who had done very well. We had a record out, and it was quite interesting. The record was produced by John Paul Jones, who was flown over from London to do it. And I went home to my father and I said, he's so poor, he's rolling his own cigarettes. That's how naive I was. But John Paul Jones, as you know, then went on the bass player as with the Moody, not the Moody Blues. Yeah, the Moody Blues. Was it John Paul Jones? No, not the Moody Blues. Sorry, they were Led Zeppelin. And he produced our first record. So I was a drummer. So I had great ambitions to be famous. A nightclub seemed the right thing, you know.
Yeah.
So that's what that. That was the start of it. I opened more clubs, but
so that was like the gateway to fame. Like you realize that there was a path there. So maybe that's the way forward. So that's the direction.
But it was illegal, and the police got me in the end. Robert Kennedy, I don't know if John F. Kennedy's brother was in town, and they booked the club that night, and security was everywhere. And the police came, and I said to them, listen, guys, tonight is not the night to raid my club, because Robert Kennedy's in there, Charlie Haughey's in there, the Taoiseach. So Inspector Malone of Harcourt Terror said, well, maybe we won't come in tonight. But someone was standing at the door and heard that and gave it to the newspapers. The Independent said, Maurice Boland tells the police to go away. And Inspector Malone phoned me and said, you're finished. I'll get you for this. And he did.
So it seems that the fact that the Prime Minister, or the Taoiseach, I'm just saying Prime Minister, for those who are not in Ireland, they probably don't know what does that mean. The fact that the Prime Minister was there didn't save your ass.
No, he didn't save my ass then. He was a friend of my parents. No, it was 3 raids in a row, and I 2 raids in a row, and then he promised. He said, "Sell the club, and I'll leave you alone." But it's very funny because I don't know if I can say this on your Charlie Hawley. I think was having a little bit of a fling with Terry. It's not fair to name her name. She was a very well-known journalist, and it said in Private Eye, the big British magazine, that he was caught horizontal jogging in my office in the club, in the tea shop. There was some very interesting stuff. The press then got very involved with me in a way. So, I married a very beautiful model and very well known, and life was interesting.
Yeah. Right. So, but let's stay still in the nightlife scene in Ireland in the 70s. You mentioned that there was no nightclub, so it was all about pubs and drinking.
It was just people. It was very glamorous. It was very posy. It's where the elite like to meet, And I opened another club with Louis Murray called Barbarella's, which had a swimming pool in the middle of it and then I opened Sachs Hotel, which I named after Gunther Sachs, who was a great playboy who married Bridget Bardot at the time. So, I enjoyed nightlife.
Yeah.
I was very young. I was a kid.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking. At the age of 18, to start with something of that size, I would say like mid-20s would be like, let's say, an average age. But
I was an old man in my mid-20s. It was. Dublin was fantastic. It was fantastic. And it was sort of just the carry on from the 60s, what happened in the swinging 60s. It was a wonderful time to be around, and the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, and I caught Eric Clapton in my club with Bianca Jagger, and some amazing stories that if I ever wrote the book, I wouldn't have to publish it because as many people would pay me not to publish it.
Well, you could make a fortune out of that, not of selling the book.
I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it.
Yeah. So you said that Dublin was fantastic back then. It was just a nightlife, or it was
it wasn't so much the nightlife. I think I was very much the nightlife. I think just it. You hear now about drug dealers and murders and drug gangs and all that sort of thing. I'm probably very naive, but I never knew of drugs then or anything like that. It was never. Dublin was quite innocent at the time. Maybe the north side of Dublin, I don't know, but there's beautiful areas there like Howth and everything. I was a south sider, okay, so and a bit snobby, I suppose.
Yeah, that didn't change. It's still the same here. The division between the north and south, it remains. Probably is not as massive as it was in the past because everyone's everywhere these days, and it's not only about Irish people. There are folks coming from all over the road, and I think this south-north thing is not as massive as it was in the past, but I think it's in people's minds more than anything else, and probably to remain in the culture for another, I'd say, 1 or 2 generations.
No, look, the Dublin I remember is a beautiful place with beautiful people. That was it. I never knew of any violence. I was a huge rugby fan and still am. I'm very proud of the Irish rugby team. I don't follow football at all, soccer. Full of hooligans. No, I'm only joking. Just the Irish crowd are different to the rugby crowd. That's it. And so, eventually I got out of the club business. With my sister and brother-in-law, we opened a very, very well-known restaurant in Dunleary and was it Sandico? Called Digby's, which got very famous as well. And it's time to move on then. And I was buying and selling houses. One of the houses I lived in when I was a kid, I just when I think about the nerve, like phoning up the bank in those days, phoning up the bank manager and said, I've just bought a house at auction. He said, but you don't have any money. I said, no, come on, you can deal with it. And that house now is the Greek ambassador's residence in Killiney Hill Road. That was my home. You had no money to buy those things. There was a bank strike in Ireland, two major bank strikes in Ireland, and one very well-known builder, and my clubs were full all the time. There wasn't really credit cards in those days. And I was taking so much cash, and this builder said, let me take your cash to pay myself. I have to pay my builders every Friday. And he's a very good client of mine, wealthy guy. And at the end of the bank strike, I got a call from Ulster Bank, which was my bank, and asked me to come in. I thought they were going to congratulate me. I just bought a new TR6, the first fuel injection sports car. And I went in there, big flash me, be congratulated by the manager. And he says, every single check you have bounced. You have no money. This guy ran. He stole everything.
Yeah.
But you survived. I had to sell part. I had to sell part of my club, and we survived.
Yeah, so let's move to Marbella now. You remain in the nightlife industry, and you open a nightclub with the Formula One champion James Hunt. Was that your first investment in Marbella?
Yeah, James. Well, the investment was interesting. James Hunt was the owner, and he was then, I think he was the Formula One champion at that time, or maybe he had been, but he was a renowned playboy, really handsome, long blonde hair. In fact, Hollywood just made a movie about him about 2 years ago, about his, I think it's called Shunt or something. But he was such a playboy, and he modeled a lot of stuff, and he just lived the life. He had a yacht down here, and he had no idea. A lot of sports stars then opened clubs or boutiques like George Best, and they had no idea what they were doing. And so I agreed to rent it was a beautiful place. I agreed to rent the club for a year with the option to purchase it, because I had to know what I was doing down here, especially the lingo. But at the exact same time, disco bars started to work. So in Portobello, a very, very American guy, very trendy American guy, opened Joe's Bar in Portobello. So people were dancing there till 3 a.m. They weren't coming to me till 3, 4 a.m. It was a disaster, a total disaster. And it was really bad. My staff, of course, in Spain, you've got these staff, you've got to pay them even if it's not doing well. But look, it was an experience, and I lost quite a lot of money with Oscars.
What year was that?
Sorry?
What year was that?
83, 84, I think, 84 maybe. And then I opened, then I wanted to continue in the nightlife. That's all I knew. And I got together with some very well-known Scottish people who had a very successful club in Glasgow at the time called Henry Africa's. And they wanted to open Marbella. It was a very attractive place. And they met me, and we opened a club together called Cuba. And that was really successful. And we put on Phil Lynott before he died, his last show, Thin Lizzy. I could spend 3 hours talking about that show, but as soon as that was working, I sold my shares to get money back that I'd lost in Oscars, and moved out of the nightlife forever.
Okay, before we talk about the reasons why you left, can you tell me, why did you stay? I mean, what was fascinating you in the nightlife? I understand in Dublin because there was a gap, and they wanted to fill that with the discotheque. But why nightlife in Marbella?
Well, Dublin, I'd had my hammering from the police. I mean, I did nothing illegal. I wasn't arrested or anything, but I'd lost it. I'd lost the lot, and I had very big homes to run and everything. And this opportunity came up in Marbella, and it sounded glamorous. And I was very young and had a very young family, so I said, "Why not? I'm an adventurist, and I liked the idea of it." It was, in my life, I wish I'd sat down and thought. Ever hear you're going to think twice. I only ever thought once, and that was my mistakes often. I just went for it, I lost. I wish I had the money I lost. I'd be a wealthy man by making bad mistakes.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying I'm poor or anything. I'm just saying, when you live in Marbella, you know what wealth is, and some of my friends are what we call super rich. There's more private jets, I think, parked in Malaga Airport today than in most countries. Yeah, but it's a fantastic life. It's an incredible life, and I, enjoyed the jet set life up to now.
What is that about the jet set life? What's fancy about?
Marbella is based on really the reason people come here at first is the great weather. It's wonderful weather, and it's very, very close to UK, close to Germany, close to France. It's easy to get to. I would say you could almost call Marbella the Beverly Hills of Europe, or the jet set capital of Europe. I mean, we have a place here called Porta Banús, and Porta Banús it's about 10 minutes from where I'm sitting, and it's full of restaurants, boutiques, vastly expensive. And right there, you could almost touch them when you're having dinner, are 100 million euro yachts with all their crew and all the lights on at night. You know, you used to have people like Khashoggi, the big arms dealer. And you have areas here where houses for sale for 8 million, 10 million, 15 million. There's an apartment. One of the most successful places here is called Pronto Romano, the hotel. It's like 12 or 13 restaurants. They've now franchised part of it. Nobu, the famous Nobu, has taken the hotel side. But you could buy a duplex penthouse there for 22 million.
Oh, you know, I cannot, but others can.
Now you know why I'm in the real estate business. But you know, honestly, it's a wonderful place to live. It's very peaceful. It's very lovely. We have crime like everywhere, but we don't have drug barons shooting each other. You might have one murder a year.
That's nothing.
That's not a bad record.
Yeah.
You know, but I have nothing bad to really say about it. So my nightclub business that I was in here, I was often interviewed on radio and television about the clubs. And one day, one of the directors of the radio station, which was the national radio station of Spain, but this was the first English radio called Onda Cero International. And I was interviewed on that by someone, and the director general, whatever you call him, came over to me as I was leaving, and he said, "Have you ever considered your own show?" And I said, "Consider it? I've dreamt about it." And he said, "Well, we like your voice. We like your accent. You like your voice." And I got my own show on that international station. I turned it into I got, I think, I can't remember how long, but then they said they need to, it was the summer season, but I loved it. And we were struggling a bit, and I said to my wife, "I'm going to ask for a job now on the radio station," because I was like, it was like a double. I was like a guest all the time. Yeah. And I went to meet the director. I said, "Listen, I want to work for this station." And he said, "No." He said, "The only thing I can do is I can sell you downtime." I said, "What the hell's that?" He said, "From 8 to 10. I said, "How much do you want?" He said, 5,000 a month. I said, "Deal." And I went home to my wife, and she said, "How'd you get on? Did you get the job?" I said, "Yeah, it was fantastic." "How much are they paying you?" 5 grand. 5 grand? Wow. Back then, 5,000. Yeah. "But I'm paying them." And she said, "With what?" And so I said, "Don't worry, I'll get sponsorship." And it became, I think at the time, I was sponsored by, the first sponsorship was, I think, it was Club La Costa, which is a huge timeshare company. They were absolutely huge. And then I got a TV show on television here. And then
let's say on the radio, what was the show about?
It was, well, because I was on between 8 and 10 in the evening, and that's my competition then was the EastEnders, Coronation Street. That's what I had to deal with. It was to try to get audience from people watching these hugely popular things. So I decided to do game shows. Guess Who's Talking? I even gave away a BMW. And I bought my audience that way by giving, it was a total show of games, you know, and it worked. It worked very well. But then I got sponsored by Dunnes Stores, you know, the big Irish company, for many years. Dunnes Stores. I called it the Late Late Breakfast Show. And people used to ask me, why did I call it the Late Late Breakfast Show? I said, no one gets out of bed here until about 1 o'clock. And I went out from 8 to 10. And then I started interviewing people. Even Tony Blair, lots and lots of famous people. on the show. I was loving every moment of it. And I was getting ready to go to the show one night, and my wife said to me, you're running late. And I said, I haven't got a guest. And playing in the house on the radio was Elvis singing Viva Las Vegas, that song. And I immediately phoned up the hotel. I looked up Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas. I said, could I interview the person's head of entertainment? Yes, her name's Debbie Munchie. But yeah, I'd be delighted. Can you tell me who the chief of police is? She done one went up the other. I got a whole show together about Las Vegas. And I did the show. It was very successful. I came home and my wife said, Debbie Munch called for you. And I said, I rang her. She said, boy, I enjoyed it. That was great fun. She said, would you consider coming to Vegas to do the show live from the hotel, from Caesar's Palace? I said, wow, let me think about it. Yeah, okay. And I was brought out there first class and stayed in the most wonderful suite there and did the show. And I had people like, you probably wouldn't know them, Paul Anka, Neil Sedaka, Gladys Knight. And the show was ran there once a year for 4 years or 5 years. So things begin to move up a little.
Yeah. So in terms of guests, is there any remarkable interview that you want to refer here, or any remarkable moment?
I did all the celebrities, the usual celebrities, name them, I've had them really. But the ones that I'm most interested in, after a couple of years speaking with famous people, I loved it. But after a couple of years, I was getting a bit bored with it because it's all, self-indulgent, I suppose. That's their job, because you got to realize that the only product they have to sell is themselves, as we all do. And I started looking at books of real life dramas and stuff and interviewing the people involved in those. One was Betty Mahmoudi. I was reading a book called Not Without My Daughter. And she married an Iranian, and it was turned into a movie eventually. And she went out to Iran and everything went very wrong. And she was beaten up there and everything. And she escaped on a donkey over the hills with her daughter, Maktouk. It was an extraordinary interview. So then I wanted to do more of that type of thing. The woman who fell to earth, a passenger plane was hit by lightning over the Amazon jungle or something. The plane crashed, everyone was killed, but she survived. Those are the sort of things I enjoy. It's got great depth in those type of interviews.
I totally relate to that. I think there's a lot to get from talking to people who have insights. Like it's a journey of itself. Like I would say there was never a moment since I started the podcast that I haven't had a lesson. Of course, it's up to the guests, but it's also up to me. This is something dual. It happens on both sides, and all you need to be is remain open and be sure that others will know something that you don't, because it's impossible to be aware of everything that is happening, everything that life is about. So there are certain situations that others have experienced that you may, but they were there from a different angle.
It's, I always say to anyone who's starting at radio and asking me questions, and could I help them a bit? I always say, if you're going to do talk shows, that's all I do is talk shows. If you hear good music on my show, it's a mistake. I've often had phone, because I take all my calls live, and I used to do a show every Christmas for years called Wish You Were Here. So people would text me and say, please phone my mother in wherever, and please phone my sister in New York and wish them happy Christmas. So I did that show for years. But I always say the most important thing in our business, and I know you know it, is research. Don't ever bring a guest on your show and think that you don't need to do a lot of research. I just think it's bad manners, to be honest with you, if you have a guest on your show. And I think it's also as a presenter or as a broadcaster or as a host, that if you don't agree with someone, tell them. Don't be nice. Don't become a yes man. And that's I watch Piers Morgan sometimes. He's very much, sometimes he's very good, but other times he can be awful. Like he was on with Roger Waters the other night from Pink Floyd, and Roger Waters ate him and spat him out.
Oh, I missed that one. I missed that one. How was it?
Sorry?
How was it? I missed that interview.
Roger Waters.
Yes, I missed that interview.
Well, it was Roger Waters is. I can't explain it to you. You can watch it on YouTube.
Yeah, I'm aware of Roger Waters and how much of an imbecile he is when it comes when it comes
He's
to
just an
politics.
anti-Semite. He's a disgusting man who went on stage dressed as a Nazi.
Yes.
It's just, the world, if we're going into the whole political side of things, I just have to say very few words about it, because as a Jew, whatever I say, I'm biased. No, even if I'm not. But one thing I will say is that Hamas enjoyed a great victory, a fantastic victory. And the victory was the attack on October the 7th, the slaughter of the Israelis at the party, teenagers, 250 of them dancing at a peace concert and just mowing them down, raping some of the girls. I'm not going to go, but what I'm saying is where their success came. The whole world on October the 7th, the whole world was disgusted by it. They were crying for Israel. Poor Israel, this is awful. And within days, Hamas turned it around and turned the world against Israel. And the spread of anti-Semitism was rapid, worse since the Holocaust, the Second World War. Students, idiots, were protesting. I would have loved to have been in America, and they protesting against me. I said, well, why? What have I done? What's that? Did I start any wars? What have I done? I watched a student the other day, and I think it was in Harvard. And when students go into Harvard, they have a card. They put it on a little machine, and it opens like the London Underground. You go through. And when he put his thing on the card, it turned red. He was a Jew. And Harvard stopped him coming in. What is that about? What I've just written just now. What has the pro-Palestinian, I should really call them the pro-Hamas marches, what have they achieved? They've achieved hatred. Nothing else. There will be peace in Gaza when Hamas are removed. Instead of saying free Palestine, it should be free Gaza of Hamas. Yes. I feel so sorry for the people of Palestine. I feel so sorry for the people of Gaza for what's going on right now. But
Do you think there are innocent people in Gaza? And if there are, how much percent?
Well, to be honest with you, I think the adult population of Gaza is very Hamas supporters, and obviously because they voted them in. But of course, Hamas then shot their way in through the thing, and there hasn't been an election since. It's a disgrace. But one thing that we've got to get on to here is just the figures of 35,000 dead. That's a terrible, terrible amount of people, and those figures have come from the Gaza health authorities. That's where those figures. The Gaza health authorities are Hamas. Now, out of that 35,000, they never, ever mentioned a Hamas member. Now, the Israeli IDF are meant to be one of the finest armies in the world. They must be terrible shots. They seem to miss all the Hamas people because out of 35,000. Then they talk of 10,000 children. But in Gaza, the Palestinians call an 18-year-old a child.
Yeah.
So I'm anti the war. I'm anti-Hamas. And I'm for peace. Peace in Gaza, peace in Israel, peace in our world. That's it.
Yeah. But what will be the response after the October the 7th? If it's not a military intervention, how could Israel react to what happened in those kibbutz?
No. Listen, Hamas knew that they had to get Israel to respond huge.
Yeah.
So what they had to do, they had to massacre as many people as they could to get Israel to respond. Now, here's a question, and I'd like to ask your listeners this question. Hamas knew Israel were going to respond. Everybody knew, and they were going to respond. Hamas have got tunnels under Gaza, longer than the London Underground, deep under Gaza. Why weren't the women and children allowed to shelter there? Why? I know why.
Yeah.
They needed the dead bodies to hold them up.
Of course. Yeah, it's a strategy.
So why has the question never been asked? Why didn't you save your people? Hamas were meant to be the head of Gaza. Why didn't they take the women and children and let them shelter in the tunnels?
Yeah, they'll never do that. That would be against their strategy. Because all they want is to inspire pity from humanity by showing children, mothers, elderly in trouble. Yeah. And apparently it works because the degree of sympathy that humanity have for Palestinians, it's nowhere similar that they have to the Jews. It's a totally different
the Jewish
thing.
thing goes back to, look, anti-Semitism has been under the radar for years. All it needed was this to lift it up. I understand as a Jew. I am proud to be a Jew, and I'm a practicing Jew as well. But I don't go around dictating to people this and that and everything. The Jews have got a terrible reputation for, I don't know, it's I don't know what our crime is. I don't know why we died in the Holocaust. What did we do wrong? What did we do wrong? What did the Jews do wrong in the world today? That's anti-Semitism, the hatred of Jews. And this thing of saying it's not anti-Semitism, it's anti-Zionist. I say, and I hate to use this word on your program, is fuck off.
Yeah, it's BS. That's what I want to say. Yeah,
it's a hidden, hiding cowards. It's anti-Zionism. Yeah, sure, it's anti-Zionist. Stop all that nonsense.
Yeah, I would say, if I can have a guess, that the reason why Jews are so hated all over the world is the reason is Jews prosper in average. Jews prosper more than the others, and people are not very happy with see others doing well. It sits bad. I mean, we all know that if you are in a bad situation, and if you see others finding their own way, you probably won't have a good night of sleep. Maybe you look at your surroundings and you don't feel happy with yourself.
There's plenty of poor Jews, trust me.
I know that there are, but
millions.
But like from my experience, from my contact with Jews, even those who are not as successful, they are okay with themselves, and people don't like to see any degree of happiness.
No, it's very sad, and I'd like to face. I was invited to Ireland to speak at a BDS rally. Do you know what BDS is? BDS is to boycott all Israeli goods. And they invited me to come to Ireland Saturday and Sunday to speak at a BDS rally. I said to them, why me? They said, because they want to show a balance to the rally. And I said, okay, I'll come. This is years ago, 10 years, 5 years. I said, I'll come, but I wanted a condition. They said, yeah, we'll pay for your... No, that's not the condition. I don't mind about the airfare. How many people are you expecting? 500? They told me 500 to 600, 700. I said, fine. When I get up to speak, I want you to hold up their iPads and their phones like that. So when I get up to speak, I'll count 1, 2, 3. I want the 600 people to hold them up. And then I want them to smash them to the grounds. And the guy said, why? I said, because the memory in there is developed in Israel. Now, either you're having a BDS rally against sincere from your hearts, and I appreciate that, or you just want to boycott oranges and shampoo and that nonsense avocados. But if it's sincere, you can't live without Israel technology. Impossible. Yeah. Or more important, there's my headphone. More important, sorry about that. More important is medicine.
Yep.
So in future, I can give you a code number. And if your dad, or your mom, or your brother, your sister, your auntie, your uncle is rushed to hospital with cancer, if you see that, tell the doctor not to use it. If you're sincere, and just let your parents die. I know Mark Rich down here. He died a couple of years ago. Mark was he was a zillionaire, Mark Rich, very famous. They made a movie about him, but I met him down here and we became quite friendly. And he had his huge charity organization, and they developed in Israel a thing, it's when you're wheelchair bound, you could be born in a wheelchair. It's like a robotic thing that you put to your leg, either side of your legs. And people are getting up and walking. So remember, if your child is in a wheelchair, don't use it. It's Israeli.
Yeah.
Stupid people.
Stupid
people.
Yeah, they don't
Listen,
know
Israel is not all good. Far from it. But what you name me which country is.
It doesn't exist on Earth. Yeah.
Of course.
It doesn't exist.
Of course.
Yeah. Because it's like human beings, they're all full of faults and flaws. So, and countries are composed of people. So of course, some bad shit is going to happen there. There will be something that it doesn't make sense. There's always a presence of evil. Just there is this obsession with Israel, which I think is just sick. If you look at it, it's just sick. It's coming from a frustration standpoint for people who don't like themselves, and all they do is pointing fingers because it's their way to forget their own misery.
The answer to the question always is why Jews? You go to anyone. I wish I could go to America now and go to one of these anti-rallies or London and just ask. When they're interviewed on television, all these people with those scarves, which the Yasser Arafat scarf, the scarf. I wanted to do is get something printed on the scarf which says, developed by Maushi in Tel Aviv. And everyone think they're wearing a scarf. But, I remember when the 6-Day War broke out in Israel. I was living in Ireland, of course. I was probably about 12 years old. I'm running low on batteries. And the 6-Day War. And a lot of young Irish people went out to Israel to volunteer, not to fight, but to take the parts of soldiers who are in the factories and everything. All these people out there marching, go out there and help. No chance. Yeah. Sorry, my batteries are running low, so just give me
Do you need to charge your battery?
No, but we could wrap it up soon, surely.
Yeah, we can.
Or we could do part 2 if you ever want to.
Yeah. There will be plenty of.
It depends if you're enjoying this. Your audience might hate it.
No, they won't. They're used to Zionists. You're not. I mean, I don't know if I can call you Zionist.
Okay.
But they're used to very much pro-Israel people. I think you are probably maybe the 5th or the 7th here, and including myself, obviously.
Well, listen, it's great to speak to you, and maybe if we do another little interview, I can tell you about how things went very wrong for me in Portugal. Not against the Portuguese or anything. I went down to do a very, very important interview, and things went very wrong. But I like Portugal.
I want to know now, how was your interaction with the Jewish community in Marbella? Because I think you arrived without knowing anyone.
My father just died, so I had to find. Find. My father just died, and for a year we do prayers and stuff. So I had to find a synagogue, and there was a shul or a synagogue here in Marbella in El Real, and it's the first purpose-built shul in Spain since 1400. I mean, purpose-built shul. It's only a little shul, a synagogue, and the family were wonderful to me there, and I was practicing, and I went there all the time. And now I'm practicing with the Chabad, which they're much younger and they're generating, and even in Dublin now they're doing really good business. I believe in God, and for anyone who doesn't believe in God, that's their business. But my belief give me faith. One of my sons nearly died once of COVID. He was in a coma and everything. If I hadn't got faith, I would have died myself. It's a wonderful thing to have faith. And I'm fed up with people saying, well, if there was a God, people wouldn't be shot and killed. It's man-made. God put you on earth. If you want to screw up, man, you go screw up the environment.
That's ignorance.
People get cancer. That's up to you.
Yeah.
God is a faith. I just love people who have faith. And I have faith.
Yeah. Were you always a religious man, or that's something that?
No, it's when my father. Well, I went to boarding school when I was in Ireland. I don't like the dark, and I took a prayer. My family weren't at all. But my grandfather was religious, and I married out at the time. Was not very well received, but my parents loved my wife Wendy, and everybody loved her. But when I was a kid, I was in boarding school in Dublin, and I used to bring my prayer book and hold on to it and say, "God, I hate it here. It's very dark. Look after me." I suppose that might have been the start of something. Who knows? I don't know. But I pray in the morning. It was called putting on tefillin, and I pray at night the Shema. The Shema is one of those prayers in Judaism, the basis of Judaism. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. And that causes big problems with Muslims because they think the Jews say the God is one. But what we're trying to say, it's the one God. You can call the God whatever you want, but it's not just one, ours. And the Shema causes lots of problems that way.
Yeah. Do you come to Ireland much?
Yeah, I was there. I was there a couple of months ago with my sisters, and I went down Grafton Street, and a parade came around. A pro-Palestinian parade came around the corner, and my sister grabbed me and said, "Do not go over and start singing Hava Nagila." I'd love to just. I said,
I
let me
could
go
see
over
that
and ask
happening.
them.
Somehow I can imagine. If your sister wouldn't be there, I think you would be in the news again.
No, I would. Well, we should do this again because we missed out the big court case against RTE. That is a very interesting case. I sued RTE.
We still have time.
Yeah, but it's not time. It's my
Your battery.
Yeah, I'm in red.
How much time you have?
I don't know, 13 minutes, 12 minutes maybe.
Okay, so we can do.
The court case was the RTE, Radio Television, came here to Marbella on a program called Today Tonight. It's like the BBC Panorama. It's a current affairs program. And they asked me, because I just arrived in Open Oscars, but I like to be on it. And I said, yes, but Marbella had no extradition in those days. So there was a lot of criminals living here. English criminals, yes, and Irish. So I said, yeah, I'll go on it. Of course, the cameras, me. But I don't want to be with any. Oh, no. We're doing it in two parts. We're doing the famous Irish people living in Marbella and the criminals, etc. Two different days. One on Wednesday and then one on the next Wednesday. Well, I said, okay. So I cooperate with everything. And then about a month or 2 months later, the show came out. My mother rang me as good Jewish mother. Oh, you were wonderful. You should have been in Hollywood. We loved you. I've sent the videotape out with Louise Gunn. And so I had everyone around to my house to watch Today Tonight and plugged the videotape on, and it said, Life on the Run in the Sun. And it was dead silence. Life on the Run in the Sun. And there I am. Hey, welcome to Marbella and all this thing. Then the next person on was Tony, the milk guy, trying to beat up a cameraman and running down. There's some woman from Ilford running down the street and cameraman after him. I thought, oh my God, what's happening? And then it finished with me in the pool waving at everybody, goodbye. I phoned my mother and I said, what the hell's happening? And she said, oh, it's okay that your lawyers, Gore Grimes, are onto it already. And we went to court and we, in front of a jury, a 3-day case, and we won the case, slander. And it was amazing. On the steps every day we were coming out of the court, the cameras were everywhere. And like RTE were sending in all their stars, like Gay Byrne, just to give a thing. And I remember our senior counsel was summing up saying, RTE said, the counsel from RTE, the senior counsel said, I was proud to represent RTE. And my senior counsel said, well, I'm proud to represent a man who only wants to keep his name. And my mother, the doctor, was called as a witness. And she said that patients have come up to her and said, doctor, your son is much better off in Marbella. My son's in Mountjoy prison. Tell him to stay there. My mother said, but he hasn't done anything. So yeah, it was some time. And I remember we flew back the night. My wife hated all of this. She hates, the TV and on top of us and all the press. She likes very proud, although she was a very well-known model. She likes the privacy. And I remember going to the airport to fly home, and there must have been a football match. But as we walked in the airport, everybody was applauding. It's like a David and Goliath. I beat the government. And we were brought to the VIP room and flown up. And, I don't know if it was first class, but it made a lot of newspaper coverage, I must say. And then there's other stories. And bringing Mandy Smith to Dublin. I used to look after Mandy Smith was the young girl who had the affair with Bill Wyman from the Rolling Stones when she was 13 and he was 50-something. And I met her in Marbella and we signed her up to Stockagan and Waterman at the time. It's a long story that it's a story on its own. But anyway, it's all part of my life.
I saw an article where they called you, I think it was Irish Independent, if I recall well. They called you Mr. Marbella. Are you proud of that? Does that make you uncomfortable? You don't care?
No, I'm not. No, I at the time, because we ran the nightclubs and then all the radio station and the TV shows, because I did Sky TV every Friday night. I flew to London to do a talk show on Sky TV. So yeah, but it was a piss taken away. Oh, there he is, Mr. Marbella. I didn't like that. It sounded like Nookie the Bear.
Yeah. I mean, when I was reading it, I had the impression that they were just envy.
The press gave me a very bad time.
Yeah, they are here in the dark, and they believe that you are there
enjoying yourself,
and you are.
They lied a lot about me, and the thing is, they build you up and then they want to pull you down. That's it. That's way here. But in America, they build you up night to keep you up.
Yeah. I'd say the press has an objective, and it's all about propaganda. So if you are on their side, you're going to be promoted. But if you aren't, they're going to stick you to the wall, and they're going to make sure that bad things are said about you.
Tell me about it.
You won't have. Yeah, I mean, it's nothing new. Yeah.
It's the way I was.
Yeah. So what's the best method to deal with the press if you are, let's say, an independent thinker like yourself? What would be your advice
of dealing with the press?
Yes, let's say if you are someone
the problem is I use the press to build up my popularity, but the cost of that was too much in the end. So try to stay away from the press. They want stories no matter what they are, and they know they're more powerful than you are to sue them, and they can corner you and make up. You could be, for example, be friends with some guy who's gay, and they could write, well, it's an obvious thing, he's gay and you're gay, and or whatever. Or you can meet a girl and you say he's having an affair with a girl, and she's my friend. Yeah, but we know. There's no. You don't argue with it. They just
Maurice, I would say that these days it's better that they portray you as gay than if you are having affairs with women.
I don't care if they want to be portrayed. I used to do a live show every Wednesday down here, and people were, first of all, sure I was on drugs. They used to say, if Maurice sneezes, we all get high in the front row. And other people would say, because I would wear makeup on stage and everything, would say, Maurice is gay, don't you? Say AC/DC, isn't he? And I say, yeah. And I go, give us a kiss. I interviewed gay Cliff Richard. Do you know who Cliff Richard is?
Yeah.
And this is the first time my wife wanted to come to an interview. I think most women were mad about Cliff Richard. And I was in Costa Blanca, so we had to drive down, stay in the hotel. And in the lift coming down, because Wendy said to me, you're not going to ask him, are you? I said, of course I'm going to ask him. Everybody wants to know. He said, but it's rude. It's no one's business. I said, I'm going to ask him. Anyway, I went in to interview him in this room. And eventually I got to the question. I wasn't very brave. I said, Cliff, are you not fed up with people calling you gay? And he hit me with his handbag and left. No, he didn't. He said, listen, I'm not going to get married for the sake of proving to my fans I'm gay or not gay. I've had 3 major affairs in my life, and that's it. I think one was Olivia Newton-John. The other one was Sue Barker, the tennis player, and there was a German girl, I think. But it's none of my business. But it's one of these things when you're, as a broadcasting host, ask the questions the public want to know.
Yeah. And I think for that, and I mean, I would like to get your insights, but my view is that you need to know your audience very well, not only your guests, but to have a deep understanding of who is on the other side, who is listening, and why they are listening. Not just because who are they, but what they want to get from your talks. So there's a lot of research to be done.
Well, I'm trans, so I'm a penguin. I don't know. I forgot to tell you that. I'm a penguin. Sorry, I'm an elephant. Oh, I can't remember. That nonsense, trans nonsense. It's absolutely.
If you want to dress as a woman, penguin. Yeah.
If you want to dress as a woman, dress as a woman. But you're not a woman. And that's it.
Yeah, but it's against
in sport, especially.
I agree. Yeah.
In sport, it's ridiculous nonsense.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
We're running a little out of petrol here, I see. But I love being with you. It's a great pleasure to speak to you. And I know I speak much too much. And I know the critics, when they hear this, are going to say, did you ever get a word in edgeways? But now you know what it's like for my wife.
That's a great way to close. So I wish you the best of luck with your ventures. I know you're mostly in the real estate market, and I think you are also considering a podcast. I've seen you're looking for a podcast engineer or something like that.
I am actually. I think I found one today, funny enough, and I'm getting. What I do on. You probably never saw my Facebook, but what I do with sort of these video chats. It's like as if you're an artist. You like to paint. So you come home from work in the evening and to relax, you open up a canvas and you paint it. I come back and I speak to a camera. I know it sounds ridiculous, but it's got nothing to do with an ego. It's got to do with I enjoy it.
Yeah.
I enjoy broadcasting. I love it. I nearly got the Late Late Show once. I got down to the last 17. The Independent had me down to the last 17, but it went to, what's his name? I can't remember his name. After Gay Byrne, then who was it? Pat Kenny. And I thought Pat Kenny was a wonderful, governmental host on current affairs, but he was awful in that show. I'm liking now, what's his name, who's now the host of the Late Late Show. And I think the Late Late Show is looking great. They're putting money into it. They're bringing over celebrities from UK and everything. And I think it's doing really well. I love everything about Ireland except the government.
Yeah, I would agree 100%.
And you know why.
Yeah, I know why. Yeah, I mean, the way they approached the Israeli thing is just appalling.
Well, Spain is doing the same.
Spain is doing the same. But I think the Irish do that because they believe they're going to get votes. And I'm not sure if that will be the case in March. Who knows? Yeah,
but I won't be running for government for sure, I don't think, in Ireland. Although I'd love to give it a go. You've got a bucket list in life, and my bucket list is very full. I mean, I've done a lot that I wanted to do. I never wanted to jump out of an aeroplane, but I've done a lot. But on the other hand, I've done a lot that I didn't want to do. So there you are.
So why not running for politics? Why not running for politics?
Because I'm not clever enough.
I would argue.
Look, I'd come off the radio. My wife would say to me, I'm interviewing a politician like Tony Blair, who was then the Prime Minister of England. She'd say to me, how the hell did you know all that? I knew nothing. I'm just bluffing. So if he said something, I'd go, no, I'm not sure about that, Tony. My point of view is very different on that. So I was just bouncing off him when I was doing it. I've interviewed a lot. Edward Heath, who then was Prime Minister as well. And I've interviewed thousands of people. But no, I'm not clever at all. I'm stupid. I'm dyslexic, stupid.
When you say clever, it's about social relationships, because it's very important to be able to shake hands with others and getting along. Is it the skill set that you think you are missing?
One of the things I suffer a lot is on image. It's a terrible thing. Because you're always worried about how you're portraying yourself. Are you upsetting someone? Like, should you have said that? And that's it. I didn't mind when I'm doing live broadcasts. I'll upset as many people as I want. And I remember he was going to a restaurant and the guy coming over to me with a few drinks. He said, I hate your radio show. And I said, really? I said, the other day when you were with Lord Jeffrey Archer, asked him when he was in the shower in prison, did he kick the soap all the way to his cell? That was bloody rude to ask him that. And asking Cliff Richard when you were speaking to Cliff Richard, was he gay? That was a terrible thing to say. And you were on with Cilla Black. Do you remember that time? I said, whoa, what show didn't you hear if you hated them all? Yeah. Because I honestly believe the most successful broadcasters, in many ways, love to be hated. People love to hate them.
Yeah.
I couldn't stand that. If I was doing a show on mathematics or politics, that would be a different. Oh, geez, I listen to him all the time.
Yeah.
But listening to the rubbish he puts out now, I wouldn't be bothered.
I would say that hate is part of success. You cannot really do well without making others uncomfortable. Otherwise, you are just, someone who is saying a couple of words, but not really making a point, not going into depth. You are just one more. So if you want to make a difference, you need to make sure that others will be envy or uncomfortable with you. Otherwise, you are just harmless. No one will notice you.
Connection. On Discovery, before you went live on air, and you're chatting, for me, that always was the most important part of the interview. Is the connection between both. I've had many fallouts with famous people, including Terry Wogan. Do you remember? Do you remember Terry Wogan?
I don't know.
Terry Wogan was probably Ireland's most famous broadcaster, and he went to England and became hugely famous. He had the breakfast show on BBC for years, millions and millions and millions of listeners, and I was so excited to interview him, which I did twice by phone link. And one day rang him and said, Terry, can I do the interview? Something, he signed a big contract. He said, yeah, I'll be on your show tonight, no problem. And then when I said to my audience, I'll be back in a moment with Sir Terry Wogan. I'll be back shortly. And put a bit of music on. Then they phone up, and his wife, Helen, said, I'm sorry to say that Terry's not here. And I said, what do you mean, Helen? He's meant to be here live. Anyway, I put the phone down. And when I got home that night, there was a message on my answer machine from Terry Wogan, said, never, ever call me again. Because I left a message in your answer machine saying, I'm very sorry, I was called away in emergency, and you were rude to my wife. That was that. But it's not the first time it's happened to me.
There's a price. There's a price for that. Yeah. Look, we are getting to 1 hour. It was a huge pleasure chatting to you. I know your phone is dying, and we need to set up a part 2 of this.
Hold on a minute. Just wait till you see what your audience think of this. They'd probably never let that egotistical bastard on your show again. They'd have Palestinian lovers banging on your door, shooting you and killing you.
I'm used to that. It won't be the first time they're going to curse on us. So one more comment, one less comment. Actually, it's good that they write comments because that helps the algorithm, if you know what I mean. So the more they write, the more I benefit. So guys, feel free. You're just helping.
I hope I can see this show then when it goes out. If you can send it to me or whatever.
Yeah. I will. Yeah, I will.
Let's see what it's like. People who interview hate being interviewed. I remember it was Terry Wogan actually told me that, and Gay Byrne was the worst. He hated being interviewed. I remember phoning up after he did the show with me and saying to his wife was Kathleen, saying, Kathleen, thank you very much. And I said, is Gay there? I want to thank you. He said he's gone for a walk up Howth Head. He said he hated being interviewed.
Yeah, there are those.
I don't mind it. I don't mind.
Yeah, I'm the same. I like chatting to people, so I don't care on which side I am. I mean, I'm comfortable both ways, so it doesn't matter. Maybe it depends on the mood, depends who is on the other side, but it doesn't matter if you tell me, okay, you are going to be interviewed. I'm already excited because it's all about the connection, as you said, and that's what we are here for. So, look, thanks for this. Let's wrap.
Thank you. I'm going to go and have my piri piri chicken now in memory of you. And thank you so much for being a pleasant and excellent interviewer.
Yeah. Okay. Appreciate that. Take care. Have a good evening. Bye.
Adios.